Hello and welcome to Insights in Action with Orange 142, where we interview agency leaders and business owners to uncover the journeys, strategies, and insights that drive their success. At Orange 142, we're all about transforming brand stories into impactful digital experiences through innovative media and marketing solutions. And today, I'm very lucky to be joined by Julio of XrossWorld. How's it going, Julio?
Hey, good. How's everything going over there?
It is good. It's good. Thank you so much for being on. And Julio, I'd love to just start this off by learning a little bit more about your background and a little bit more about CrossWorld.
Yeah, for sure, Stu. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I started my entrepreneurial journey after I looked at a corporation when they told me it takes me 10 years to climb up the ladder. And I'm like, okay, see you later. I'm going to build my own businesses. And there, from that, it just spawned into one business after the other business back in Australia. And when I sold my second company in 2015, I was like, I think Australia is done with me. Let me go to a bigger country where I can make a bigger impact. Hence why I moved to LA in Los Angeles.
Wow, that's awesome. And how about CrossWorld? What does CrossWorld do?
Crossworld is we are a hybrid tech and advertising agency for influencer marketing. And so we help Fortune 500 companies determine what a fair market value is of a nano, micro, or mid-tier influencer so they know where they can get their return on ad spend.
Awesome. That's really cool. Influencer marketing is blowing up these days. What was it that made you like, okay, this is the next frontier for me?
Man, that's a great question. It was about 6 years ago, a friend of mine who is the CTO, he came up to me and approached me with an idea, and it was a marketplace for different types of activities, very similar to ClassPass. And I was like, this is interesting. So we dived into it a little bit, but our go-to-market strategy was to utilize some of my influencer friends who are heavy on social media. And we would approach the brick and mortars in Los Angeles, asking them to join our platform in one condition, as long as our influencers can come in and film. And when we asked that, every brick and mortar that we went to were asking, how did you find the influencers? How much did you pay them? How do you know ROI? And this is 2018. So at that moment, still influencers were more, I guess, CPG gimmick type of thing. No one really was investing heavy. There was a trend, but it wasn't really picking up. And from there is when I was like, hold on, there's something interesting. Let's research the market a little bit and see where these trends are going with social media influencers, especially the ones that are nano to mid-tier micro level. And that's when I was like, we've got a big problem in here. We can solve this and let's tackle it. And through that process, as we started tackling that issue on determining what a fair market value is of an influencer, we were lucky enough to land some really big clients, Fortune 500 companies. And their goal was to understand how they can scale micro influencer campaigns where there is an ROI, but the least amount of friction in terms of operational costs. And that's when the whole big idea started. And 3 years ago, we started to train our LLMs to aggregate the data that we're collecting to determine and create this index value of fair market value of influencers. Today, as of July of this year, we actually just launched our private beta technology for other marketers to access our technology to help them scale influencer campaigns in-house. And that's how the whole idea came about. And yeah, it's been an interesting journey so far.
That's so interesting. It's, you know, what I find very interesting is that influencer marketing has been going on for decades. It recently became very democratized. You know what I mean? These big Fortune 500 companies, what else is paying like an athlete or an actor or some big celebrity to go represent your brand? It's influencer marketing, you know what I mean? And then recently it became this democratized thing where creators that were just making content, and it's like nobody told anybody to do that. Nobody told like creators to start going out and creating content and then eventually they could partner with businesses. It's just this thing that was like almost meant to happen with these platforms like TikTok, Instagram and whatnot. So it's really interesting. And I think you guys even taking it a level further because I remember out in like the whole influencer marketing sphere or just like in the business sphere, people were talking about the local restaurants. My family owns a local restaurant. And hearing what influencers were trying to charge like small businesses and whatnot, like that, I know that businesses are like, what the hell? We're not going to pay like tens of thousands of dollars for you to come and do this. So I think that you coming in and almost being like this like middleman of no, that's not how much you should charge here. You know what I mean? And even playing for the businesses side too of, hey, this is what we can do for you. I think that's awesome. And I think that was desperately needed in the marketplace.
Yeah, and it's a good point. So, as I'm connected in the industry, as you do when you start to work in a business and in an industry, you immerse yourself into it as much as possible, right? And with some of my colleagues and competitors, I talk to them all the time. What are the challenges? What are you seeing? And you hit it on the nail with some of the early challenges, like how is this person charging $10,000 to a restaurant? Like, where that doesn't make sense. And a lot of that is because even though it's becoming democratized, it's still missing a lot of layers. And so a lot of that justification of why to charge that much really came from, let me ask Google how much I should charge. And Google is, I don't know, or maybe they got lucky. They got paid
Yeah.
$10,000 once, and so they think they're worth $10,000 all the time. And in the world that we live in a whole digital world. And how I look at this world is in this perspective. Prior to the world that we are now, which is heavily involved social media for not only entertainment, but for news, but for business, growing creators and everything else, is that world is now your local community. Previous to that, our local community was our neighborhoods, right? And so for now that you can have a brick and mortar business in the middle of a small little town, but if you connect your e-commerce platform, tie it to a digital community, now your local business is a global business. And that's the whole aspect. Now, who do you find? Who are the right people to help you push that globally? That's the big question mark. Is it
Yes.
worth it? Are they the right people? Are they the right audience? So those are the things that we're focusing on, educating the industry, but also aggregating that data so people can make sense with data.
Yeah, for sure. I love that. And I think that's a big help to businesses too is aggregating data so that people can make the right decisions for their business. And with that being said, what do you think the biggest misconception brands still have about influencer ROI today is?
Yeah, don't look at following count. Don't look at the clout. Don't look at that. That's the biggest misconception. It's like the more followers they have, the better return it is, and it's not that. And so look at it's, and this is because it's very guardrailed with the big players. I'm talking about YouTube, Meta, TikTok, and all of them. They guardrail that unique data, the first party data, for many reasons. And so to access that first party data, it's usually only given to you by authorization of that end user. If I'll give you access to my first party data. And once you get access to that first party data, you get access to their audience. And then now you can start to determine and categorize that creator in terms of value. If, for an example, really high level example, if the target of your audience is, let's say, Los Angeles, but their following size in Los Angeles is very minimal, and then the people that do follow that are based in Los Angeles has even less interactions, then I would classify that influencers as almost like not greatest value for the business in terms of that, right? So being able to aggregate and analyze that data makes it much bigger. Don't look at following count. That's definitely a pitfall that you will spend money based on dollars that it's not driving a return.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's the inherent value of having an agency like yours come in, at least the agency side of what you guys do, or even your platform, is that most people, that's what they'll look at. They're like, oh man, this person has 60,000 followers. I'd love to have them over at my business and doing that. But they're not really parsing that data. They're not really looking through and seeing like, man, this probably isn't the best move for my business. And I think having you guys, again, it comes back to that data. That's really cool. Julio, it's been really interesting hearing about your business, your platform, and the agency side. Where can people learn more about you and where can people learn more about CrossWorld?
Yeah, for sure. I always love to connect on LinkedIn. So
Okay.
my LinkedIn is Julio Cern Chaves. Please connect and send DMs. Or you can also go to our website, which is crossworld.ai. And yeah, happy to help out. I wanted to drop one more golden nugget
Please.
regarding what you mentioned about the influencers following size. If you're evaluating if that influencer is worth the dollars they're trying to charge you, look at it in the way of what's the short, mid, and long-term goals with that partnership. And structure a deal around those three timelines: short, medium, and long-term goals. That's the golden nugget. And then when you're looking at audience, just imagine this. Once you start to grow to a certain level of audience following for many years, there are no, today, there are no criteria for you to open up a social media account. You just need an email, a date of birth, and that's it. And therefore, not everyone's audience is active today, or is a real account, or it's an account that was created by a real human being. So that's why stay away from following count if
Yeah.
possible.
Yeah, for sure. And people can always buy followers and all that stuff. So it's a vanity metric that doesn't really mean much anymore. So I like the extra step that you guys take to look through the data. Wow. Julio, thank you so much. This is great.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Thank you for having me on and happy to help anytime.